What's Higher Ed PodCon? Well, that's a great question. It's the first ever inaugural and first annual higher education podcasting conference put on by the EdUp Experience, EDU Alliance, and Higher Ed Pods. Join us in Chicago on July 12th, 2025, as we get together to talk about podcasting in all areas of higher education, including marketing, enrollment, student affairs and student services, teaching, learning, alumni engagement. How can you better get in front of the audience that you want to see through podcasts? That's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to have podcasters, producers, students, strategists from all over higher education getting together, sharing best practices, how you take a podcast to get in front of an audience and make an impact. Join us in Chicago, July 12th, 2025 for higheredpodcon.com. That's where you register. Higher Ed PodCon is the first of its kind event. We'll see you there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. I am your host, Dr. Jody Blinko, and I am joined today with our guest, Kim Fahey, CEO of Collegius Education. Welcome, Kim, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Jody. Jody, it's an honor. I appreciate being asked to join.
Yeah. Well, for our listeners that are not familiar with Collegius Education, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So Collegius Education has been serving higher ed for 25 years plus. And we originally, in our latest iteration, spun out of a university, and at the time, the owners of that university saw marketing, recruitment, retention, and technology services for the university. And they said, hey, this is an opportunity to maybe bring those capabilities to other schools and help them in a way that they might not be able to help themselves. So spun out Collegius Education, and as part of that, brought the people that were responsible for delivering those functions to Collegius. And at the time, we had one partner, the university that we spun out of, but have since grown to, we're now at 52 partners and completely independent from that university. And so, it was a great way to start. It was like being a well-funded startup, which gave us a lot of opportunity to learn and grow and try new things and be innovative and look for ways to do things differently. And I'd say, for the past, I've been here for 11 years, and the past 11 years have gone very, very quickly because there's just constant change within higher ed. And so we're always having to look at how to do things different. But those being grounded and coming from a university has really given our teams frontline into what it takes to operate a school effectively and what's most important, which is the student. And so we bring that to every one of our engagements. And that's part of what makes Collegius, in my opinion, such a great organization.
I love that. You said this so well. It's that understanding of what's happening in the day-to-day and in the weeds and at the ground level. If you have experience of what that is really like in the day-to-day, in the weeds, you do have a different lens and a different perspective on the ups, the downs, the challenges, the stuff that might not be as clear to maybe a partner that hasn't been in that space. So I have so much respect, and I love that you all, like you said, spun out of that university space, started with one partner, and now 52 partners. And you may get into this here in a little bit, but just curious. So 52 partners, is there is it 2-year, 4-year? Is there an ideal partner that you work with, or do you fit everyone? Question.
Yeah, well, so the services that we provide are relevant to really any type of school. Where we started was a lot of 4-year private liberal arts faith-based institutions. And the reason being is at that time, they needed help, right? They were very traditional in the type of education that they were delivering, the type of students that they were going after. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you know, as well as anyone else, with the demographics changing, they had to think about things differently. So whether that's bringing programs online, recruiting non-traditional students, leveraging technology and data more to drive student success, and they did not have the capabilities to do it themselves. And so we were a natural partner for them and lots of alignment around our values and mission. And so it was a very good fit for us. And I would say the first probably half dozen, 10 schools that we work with were those smaller liberal arts, faith-based private institutions.
Wow.
Since then, we have grown to serving some of the largest public institutions. We have community colleges. We have a number of for-profit institutions. And so we really do have a blend of partners. Now, each one of them is unique in terms of what their needs are. And so we need to, it can be complicating for us because we have to understand the nuances of each of those types of schools. But, over the last 11 years, that's the knowledge that we've gained to be able to tailor what we do specifically to what their unique challenges are. And their students are very, very different. If you look at a traditional student to someone who's going to school at night while being a single mom and working, how you support them to be successful is very different. So we have to know that so that we can provide the solutions to help them.
Absolutely. And not asking you to give up any of the secret sauce here, but that understanding of the client is so important, and understanding what their needs are. Is that one of the first steps in your process, is really just spending time and learning and discovering more about what, where their struggles are, where their strengths are, and where you all can offer the most support to be impactful?
Absolutely. We spent most of our kind of strategic business development process is about listening and learning. And so we meet with the institutional leaders. And one of the first things we do is just map out their process. So full student life cycle, what does that process look like? We do focus a lot on what is the data and technology that's used throughout that student life cycle, because that can identify areas of opportunity, both for the school to think about doing things differently, and it identifies opportunities of where we really can help by bringing our solutions and platforms to them. And so we spend a lot of time understanding the school, understanding their unique challenges, and really asking the tough questions about what are you trying to impact? Because there's a lot, right? And you can get very overwhelmed very quickly with all of the challenges within higher ed. And so we help them prioritize as well. And we do that in a very collaborative way, where typically the full cabinet is sitting in those discussions. So you have everyone from the people responsible for marketing, student success folks, provosts, so everybody is there to have a voice in what the student life cycle looks like and some of the opportunities. And then that moves into a prioritization conversation. And then, okay, how can we help you meet your objectives in a very quantifiable way? Because that's important as well, as to be able to measure the impact that you're making. So yes, we
Absolutely.
spend so much of our time just trying to understand our schools and what's important to them.
And when we were chatting before we started recording, we were talking really about the core values, which I think are so succinct and so powerful, and connect to what you were just saying about how can we really make an impact. You talked about the data, the technology, and then the third component is the talent piece. So would you share a little bit more with us about those principles and how you work to make sure that you are living that and making the impact with the client?
Absolutely. So we really, really believe at our core that is a combination of those three, when brought together, can really drive the impact and the outcomes you're trying to achieve. Any one of them in a silo is not going to get the return on investment. And we see so much technology in the higher ed space. And because we have a number of schools who have completely outsourced IT to us. And so we see at a lot of schools that they spend millions of dollars on technology that is not getting them the return that they expected. It becomes shelfware. And so a lot of vendors try to convince schools that there's an easy button, just buy this and your student retention is going to go through the roof. Well, that's not true if it's not implemented in a proper way, or if you don't have the data you need to drive the retention models, and then not have the solutions to drive the interaction with the students. And so you can have all the great technology in the world. If it's not implemented correctly, or you're not able to get access to the data and centralize it in a way across the student life cycle, you'll never drive the impact. And the only way to do that is with talented individuals who know higher education, they know these technologies, and they can be there to support you. And so
Yeah.
that's why we talk about data tech talent to drive impact. That's our tagline, because we believe that in their silos are not going to get you where you need to be. And not every school likes to hear that. They don't necessarily like to hear that it's hard, but it is hard. And
It is
everyone
hard.
who tells
Yeah.
you it's not is not being honest, and they'll get in there and they'll sell you the bright, shiny object, and then it's not going to work for you. So we try to be very honest and transparent about the work that goes into getting access to clean data that can be timely and accurate, et cetera. And that takes a lot of work. So we're there to help. That's the talent piece of it, is us partnering together. The school's talent, our talent together really drives to the outcomes.
Kim, you're speaking my language, because I've been in the consulting space in higher ed for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was on the operations side, and I very often see clients who want that, and rightfully so, no judgment at all, but their things are struggling, right? So they want an easy fix, if you will, or the automated fix. And you alluded to this of, hey, those three components, any one of them in a silo really doesn't offer the impact, or isn't going to make the impact that the institution's looking to move or to make happen. But when you bring that together, and then you really understand what are the root problems that are driving the current outcome, what is it really going to take to make the difference, make the impact? And you're right on the nail with this too, of unfortunately, it's not an easy fix. It's not just, you called it shelfware. It becomes shelfware when we spend all this money on a product that isn't going to really fix the problem, or isn't going to get them what they're looking for. So I love that triangle, if you will, that dynamic of those three pieces together. And they do have to be integrated. You talked about clean data, the integrity of the data. Oftentimes we can misdiagnose a problem if we don't have any data, or we're relying on data that's not clean. We end up trying to fix the wrong problem, or spend a lot of money to fix the wrong problem. And so those three pieces together, I just, again, have appreciation for what you all are doing. And then the partnership with, you said, our talent with your talent to figure out how to make all of this holistically move. Right. And I guess that would take me to my next question for you is, can you provide a little bit more clarity on, do you all have the capacity to address, is it a holistic ecosystem that we're solving for? Is it certain parts of the student journey? Tell us more about what that service looks like.
Yeah. So the services we provide do span the full student life cycle. So everything from some of the traditional marketing agency type work, albeit evolving now because of AI, and we can talk a little bit more about that, to recruitment, retention services, and then underlying all of that are full IT managed services capabilities. So literally being able to run an entire IT operation from the CIO down to the help desk for schools. And that's becoming actually more and more important as university presidents and CFOs are looking for ways to reduce expense, but still get access to top talent. IT is becoming more and more acceptable to outsource because they realize that their core mission is about educating a student. Their critical competencies need to be around academics and student support. IT isn't necessarily one of those. Absolutely, they need best-in-class IT capabilities, but they can get that from a partner. And so technology is a big part of it. And even in those other areas that I talked about, marketing through retention, technology is woven throughout there. Yeah. And underlying all of that, what all those services sit on top is our, what we call our connected core. And this is our higher ed specific cloud platform that we've built in partnership with Google. And Google, as you are well aware, has an amazingly robust cloud platform, both from all of the new AI capabilities that they're building. And I shouldn't say new, they've been out for decades, but they're getting more attention in the market over the past couple of years. Their their data management capabilities, all of the large language models and machine learning capabilities they have, visualization. So instead of trying to build that ourselves, which wouldn't make sense for a company our size, we instead are building our higher ed specific models and integrating data from all of the systems across the student lifecycle, from your Google Analytics, CRM, LMS, student information system, pulling that into our connected core. And that data is what drives our services and drives our differentiation. And so when you talk about the scope of our services, we don't typically offer all of those at one time to a school, but we'll come in and meet them where their greatest need is. So I mentioned that process mapping. That process mapping and the conversation with the school will identify where their biggest pain point is. And then we can come in and say, okay, here's where we think we can help. And we usually enter the student life cycle where the biggest pain is. Trying to drive enrollments, trying to improve retention, trying to address technology or security deficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. So we are very diverse, broad and deep in what we offer, which has been great, especially in market and in today's market where it can be very challenging. It's nice for us as a company to be able to really lean into areas that have the greatest demand at this time. So we're broad and deep with what we offer, but it depends on what the need is of the school of what we actually help them with. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yes. And I just want to clarify for myself and anybody listening. So you talk about the connected core. That is the platform in partnership with Google that allows you to take all of these metrics throughout the life cycle to then, is it fair to say, be able to properly diagnose where to refine, make more efficient, optimize, make an impact? Am I connecting all that together? No pun intended.
I like it. That's absolutely right. So if you think about the student journey, there is a incredible amount of data and information that is available throughout that journey. In fact, we've got within the connected core, we process petabytes worth of data, which really amazed me when I started to see it. But it's all of the web behavioral data from when you're a prospect to when you're a student, all of the interactions with your learning management system. So we collect petabytes of data about the student throughout the student journey. And then as we load that into the models that we've built on top of the Google platform, those models could be things like at-risk student profiles are one thing that we've got built out, or personalized enrollment journeys. And so the data that we collect allows us to leverage these models, like you said, to drive outcomes for these students. The other kind of more important thing right now is it also enables all of the AI capabilities that Google has. So when you think about AI and all of, whether it's a chatbot or a model or whatever, an agentic agent, that autonomous agent, all of that requires a tremendous amount of data. And there's a ton of publicly available data that anyone can get access to, but where it really becomes valuable is when you have access to the institution's data about the student. And as we're collecting petabytes of data, making sure that it's clean, timely, accurate, et cetera, now you can start to leverage AI and know that you can trust the results that you're getting. And without that, these AI solutions will not work. They'll just sit on top of your website. And if your website doesn't have great, clean information about a program or about financial aid or about a start, students going to get the wrong information, right? And so instead, we clean that and put it into the connected core. And that's what drives a lot of these AI capabilities.
That's fascinating. I have never even heard of the term petabytes before. That's what you called it? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I can only imagine that's like super microscopic, or really it's a lot or a ton of data. Either way, it's a big deal. Okay. See, I told you, I had no idea. So kind of in the same type of conversation related to AI, the evolution, how fast, just it's all moving, technology, AI together. Can you speak to how have you all stayed with that pace? Obviously, the connected core is a part of that. Is there anything else that you would share or you think is relevant to the conversation of just how you're staying in touch and in tune with this fast moving pace?
It's your time to register for the first ever, first of its kind inaugural higher education podcasting conference called Higher Ed PodCon, put on by your friends here at the EdUp Experience, EDU Alliance, and Higher Ed Pods. Podcasters, producers, students, strategists from all over higher education are coming together in Chicago, Illinois on July 12th, 2025 on the campus of the University of Illinois, Chicago, to have a podcasting conference. It's the first ever, first of its kind. It's never been done in higher education before, and we want to see you there. Become one of the first sponsors, first attendees, first panelists or presenters at Higher Ed PodCon on July 12th, 2025 in Illinois, Chicago. Register now at higheredpodcon.com and join us in Chicago.
Yeah, so I can talk about it from what we're doing as well as what we recommend for the schools. And that's to really take a step back from all of these technological advancements and focus on process and data. Because no matter what's changing with those technologies, they will always be dependent on a clean business process and access to data. And that doesn't change. It evolves over time, of course. But if you have your business processes stabilized and mapped out, and you understand the data that's collected as part of that, and you're centralizing it, in our case, in the connected core, then plugging in new AI capabilities is the easy part. And this is where it gets easy. The hard work is that process and data part, but in embedding a new model or a new agent or whatever, if you've got that foundation built, it becomes a lot easier. And so in this fast moving world, we're kind of like, take a step back, focus on the foundational basics of process and data, and let the folks that are spending billions of dollars on AI advancements do that. And we develop models and capabilities, but we're leveraging what Google has in a lot of cases. And that's what we love. And they do too, love about our partnership is we are the higher ed experts. We can operationalize their platform for these schools where without us, the schools couldn't do it on their own. They don't have the Google architects and engineers that we have. And so it's a really nice win-win relationship because they're getting partners that they would not historically be able to get. And then we're getting the benefit of this extremely robust platform that Google is investing billions of dollars in. And if we consolidate the data in a very thoughtful way, our partners are going to be able to take advantage of that. So it's just this great relationship that we're thrilled to be part of.
And I think now would be a perfect time to talk about, you have a summit coming up with Google.
Yeah, so we do an annual summit with both our current partners as well as some prospective partners where we bring them together because we really want the prospects to hear from our current partners about what we do for them instead of us telling them. And then this year, Google offered to host it within their office in Chicago. So it'll be the Collegiate Summit. We're calling it Disrupt Ed. It's all about breaking through the noise.
I love it.
In the market and driving impact. So we'll be with Google and they'll be speaking as well. We've got some great industry experts. Phil Hill will be there. We have Charlie Rose, who is a lawyer in Chicago that really focuses on higher ed regulation. And so we try to bring together people that our partners will want to hear from and learn a little bit about what's going on in this crazy market we call higher education technology.
Yeah.
And then talk about how we're able to help kind of make sense out of that noise for our partners. So it's a great event. We try to make it a little fun too. We'll be going to see the Cubs play the Mets and hopefully beat them in Chicago. So
yeah,
it'll be a good time. That's in September, at the end of September.
That's awesome. And if someone, so you said it's for current partners and maybe prospective partners. So if someone was interested in learning more, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So I'm at collegiateeducation.com. There's a way to reach out to us through an RFI form and the team will get back to them and we can talk about talk about the summit, talk about what we can do to help them.
Yeah. Well, so let's, I want to circle back a little bit to this massive amount of data, this partnership with Google, the insights that you're gathering, from this work. Are there high level themes or patterns that, as you know, as this market has evolved and changed, that, and you're gathering this data, are there patterns or themes that are bubbling to the surface that you would say, these are maybe some of the most common challenges that institutions are facing or struggling with? Or I know every institution is different, and that's part of the learning and listening that you talked about. But for those folks listening to this episode to be able to connect with and say, yeah, we struggle with this and this and this, anything that you would speak to that you all have uncovered through your work that then connects back to the services that you provide?
Well, I think there's probably a couple of things. There's macro concerns around just higher ed in general, whether it's the demographic changes, obviously the political environment, people questioning the value of education, all things that we all hear about every day, right? But that it's what I've experienced over the last 6-ish months is just the massive amount of angst and uncertainty that all of that is driving for schools. And we're seeing some presidents that respond to that and are willing to make the tough decisions to do what they need to do to help their institution survive. And then we see others that are paralyzed by it, and they're afraid of making decisions that are going to be viewed negatively, whether it's in the market or within the government or wherever. And so there's just this amount of uncertainty. And so with that uncertainty, there's like I said, there's different ways that folks are reacting to it. The folks that are proactive, and what we're seeing with the use of data and technology, they really can counterbalance some of those market dynamics. And so from an enrollment perspective, with the demographic changes, if you look at how to leverage data and technology and really use the student data to drive how you're interacting with them, both from a technology perspective and a human perspective, you can make impact on the enrollments. I mean, there are schools that are winning in this environment, and the ones that are winning are the ones that are listening to their students. They're using the data, and they're leveraging technology so that the human interactions, which are still critical, can happen in a more meaningful way. So that's a big piece of what we're seeing is, again, there are people that are winning that if they're actually taking the time and investing where they need to. So that would be one of the things that I would point out.
Yeah. And I am very passionate about skill development of frontline staff. That is where I've spent the bulk of my time in my higher ed career. And so I can appreciate and relate to what you're saying. There are institutions that are controlling their controllables in this unknown space that we are all in right now. But if you look at where can I spend my energy on what I can control, and taking care of my students, developing my staff, identifying those gaps, looking at data. I think a lot of the challenge that I often see is, we're looking at data maybe too high up. And so 6 months from now, a year from now, we're looking back at data where we don't have an opportunity to influence it. We can moving forward, but, really being able to look at data in real time and coach to that and develop your staff. And I think, the human piece there that you talk about, of the human element, it's not going to go away. While we can still automate parts of the process and, optimize operational parts of the process, human beings still want a human connection to some level. Yes. And that goes just as much for your students as it does your staff. So I just want to echo what you're saying of, there are institutions that are still that are winning, and they're doing the work, they're digging in, they're doing the heavy lifting that takes some time and sweat. And, but, also what you said too about making some of those tough decisions, walking into the fear, walking into the unknown. And I think we can all relate to that. We're all living in it. And whether it's in higher ed or life, being able to control what we can is really the essence of the only thing that we can control,
Well, on your skill development piece, I have a cool story for one of the schools that we're working with that really brings together the skill development, some of our services, obviously, as well as data and technology. And with AI and some of the advancements there, one of the things that we're doing at a school where we're responsible for recruitment of students is for compliance reasons, we have to record all of the calls that we make on behalf of a school, obviously. Now with AI and some of the capabilities that we have, instead of just recording a subset of the calls and having somebody manually listen to those calls and coach, we record every single one of our calls. We're able to use AI to take that call recording. So looking at unstructured data, which is historically very difficult to leverage, like you said, all this information, and bump that up against what the criteria is from the school, to drive how to interact, and then do an assessment of the call, build automated coaching and training for that agent.
I love it.
Feeding it back to them. So real time, they're getting feedback on, hey, you might have wanted to handle this topic differently or whatever, and it can also assess kind of tone and engagement with the prospect. And that's all automated. And in the past, somebody had to do that work and you were only able to do it on a subset. Now there are times where some of it will kick over to a human coach, because there is a little more work that's needed. But that stuff is just so cool, being able to impact so many more coaches and help them with their skills development is amazing.
Yeah. And because, I'm sure you have watched this in real time over the years, you no longer can outrun an enrollment problem with marketing dollars. And I think back in the day, you used to be able to say, well, I'm trying to get X more students, so I'm going to spend this much more money. Well, you still can, in essence, I guess, if you have this endless bucket of money, but at some point, you have to be able to do better with what you have. And that's where that coaching and that skill development, that conversion takes place. I love that you all are doing that you can run all this through and kick a summary back over. I mean, you're right. Back in the day, and still even in a lot of institutions, it's, you sit, the coach or the leader sits and you listen to a call recording together, you analyze it, and you're really just taking the opinion of the two people in the room. Whereas in your case, AI is running through a petabyte worth of data or a large amount of data, and then picking the themes and the patterns back to be able to say, okay, this is what's happening in my conversations, or, taking it over to a human coach. That's brilliant. It's phenomenal.
It's fun. I mean, we love talking about those things. And even like you said, with throwing marketing dollars just to try to get more students. Well, there's such a better way to do that now by collecting the information about where you're spending, how effective are those campaigns, how effective are those ads, what have not only converted to leads, but actually to applications and to a start. By collecting the ad data and all the marketing data, the CRM data, and the start data, you can now feed that into a model to change where you're spending your media. And with Google, that can all be automated. So automated marketing spend is a real thing based on models of what's effective and what's not, and changing that investment. So you don't have to change how much you spend, but you change where you spend it, and you're getting a much greater ROI in it. So we're tech and data geeks across the company, so we get excited about these things.
I love it. Kim, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you really think is important to this conversation, that you wanted to share about Collegis, or that you think is important for our listeners to hear?
Well, and the big thing is that a lot of what we said can be overwhelming. especially for folks, my background has always been data and technology, and so I get it. But people, it can be overwhelming, and finding a partner who can work with you in a very pragmatic, methodical way to break it down into, again, sensible chunks that show tangible impact across the student life cycle. There are people that can do that for you. So don't be overwhelmed. Look for ways to break it down to make sense, and know that once you get that foundation, it's just going to propel the opportunity to take advantage of all these technology advancements even greater. And so just the advice, I guess, would be, or something I didn't talk much about, is just how overwhelming this can all be. I live it every day, so I get it, but I also understand that it's a lot for schools, and a lot of higher ed in general is not fast to want to make a lot of changes, and this is a big change. But if they don't start to really think about making these changes, there could be a lot of problems in the future for them. So it's really, really important to start thinking about this and finding the right partner to work with.
2 comments to what you just shared. It was a podcast a couple weeks ago. Gavin Cooney, I think, who is the CEO of Learnosity, he said, if you don't disrupt your own model, someone will. And that stuck with me. And it goes with your disrupted theme for this summit. But I also want to comment on what you shared about this process can be overwhelming. It's so true. It's like whatever we do, we're in it every day. We live it, we breathe it. So it can feel really normal or just day-to-day operations for us. But I think those words of you sharing, hey, this can be overwhelming, find a partner or connect with a partner that can help break this down for you or speaks to it in a way that feels less overwhelming. Yeah. Just humanizing that feeling, I think, is so important. And I'm sure you all see this all the time. I know I do from a consulting lens, that paralysis of, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm just going to keep doing what I know and cross my fingers and hope for the best that something irons itself out. And, I remember as an enrollment counselor, we would often say to students when we were having conversations, hey, I do this every day. I know this is overwhelming, but I'm here to guide you through. I think we lose sight of that very real sentiment that you just shared, and can lose sight that institutions and presidents and VPs, whoever they are, connecting with them in that very human way to say, hey, it's okay if we don't know where to start. We're going to help you with that. And we're going to work through that together.
Right. Because I'm certain they all know where their core problems are. Like what are the issues that they're trying to address? And so that's where we start, is what are you trying? What are your issues, obstacles, opportunities that you see? Let's talk about that. And then we can help you figure out where to start to try to address them. So it's a true partnership, true collaboration. I mean, I feel so lucky to be part of a company like Collegius, because at the end of the day, our teammates care so deeply for our partners and ultimately their students that they want them to be successful. And so, I mean, they almost become part of the institution in relationships. So it's really collaborating on bringing the leaders of the institution who know their school and students better than we ever will, and us who know the technology and the data and have the talent to help drive the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. It's that being able to work in that type of partnership is so rewarding for me and my team. And it's really what drives us on a daily basis.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a true partnership. It's not just the word, right? It's really a connection, and that level of connection. You said, a lot of your teammates they become part of the institution. You're invested in a completely different way.
Yeah. And when it's funny when we have our town halls and talk about successes, it is almost, they are so proud of the outcomes they drive. It's not about our business success. It's about what we've done for our partners. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's, in enrollment, higher ed, we used to talk about, hey, take care of the student, do the right things, everything else will follow. That's right. I think that's a golden rule. You take good care of people all the way around, and outcomes will follow. It will just be there. So
that's great.
Well, any words of wisdom for our listeners can be related to higher ed, not related to higher ed, leadership, whatever you want. Any words of wisdom?
I'll just go back to the overwhelming and the piece. And this is in life as well, not just within our market. 'Cause I have two children. One is 23 and one just turned 21. And life can be overwhelming. And it's just a matter of starting somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not letting the magnitude of the situation create a paralysis of action, and making small incremental progress every single day will ultimately get you to your goal of what you're trying to accomplish. So I guess that's what I would share. And I share that with my team members on a regular basis as well. If we look at the goals we're trying to achieve as a company, they can be very daunting. But again, creating a plan and just executing, you'll get there. You'll make mistakes along the way. It'll be hard. You'll fail, but it'll be rewarding and fun. As long as you get to surround yourself with people you enjoy working with, then it's all good.
Yeah. Well, Kim, thank you. I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up.
Thank you, Jody. It was so nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the Ed Up Experience podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jody Blinko. Our guest today, Kim Fahey, CEO of Collegiate Education. Thank you again, Kim. Thank you all for listening. You've just been Ed Up.
What's Higher Ed PodCon? Well, that's a great question. It's the first ever inaugural and first annual higher education podcasting conference put on by the Ed Up Experience, EDU Alliance, and Higher Ed Pods. Join us in Chicago on July 12th, 2025, as we get together to talk about podcasting in all areas of higher education, including marketing, enrollment, student affairs and student services, teaching, learning, alumni engagement. How can you better get in front of the audience that you want to see through podcasts? That's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to have podcasters, producers, students, strategists from all over higher education getting together, sharing best practices, how you take a podcast to get in front of an audience and make an impact. Join us in Chicago, July 12th, 2025 for higheredpodcon.com. That's where you register. Higher Ed PodCon is the first of its kind event. We'll see you there.